I Am Not Your Negro.
I am not your Negro. Yes. So this month, welcome to 2022, first of all.
We here, 9 days
We
in.
are on year 2 of Now We Know. Look at
What?
us. Just look
That's
at us.
that's crazy to me. Which I
Yeah,
it's a great thing to do something.
for
You
sure.
know?
Yeah, and we do this, for us and for the community, and it just feels good. Like it feels really good. And so I'm glad that we get to do this together and going into another year. So to kick off 2022, we're going to, like we said, go a little bit deeper into different people and different topics surrounding Black culture and Black history and the way that we want to learn more about it. And so we're going to jump into James Baldwin. And just to give everybody some context here, so this I got from the National Museum of African American History and Culture, from their website about James Baldwin, to give everyone a little bit of context. So the 1940s marked several turning points in James Baldwin's life. In 1942, he graduated from high school, and a year later, he witnessed the Harlem Race Riot of 1943 and experienced the death of his father. After this emotional loss, Baldwin felt more than ever that it was important to play a father figure to his 8 brothers and sisters. He could not even dream of college, and therefore worked at menial jobs during the day, and at night played guitar in Greenwich Village cafes, where he also wrote for long hours, trying to fulfill his dream of becoming a writer. In 1948, at age 24, Baldwin left the United States to live in Paris, France, as he could not tolerate the racial and sexual discrimination he experienced daily. As Kendall Thomas, a professor of law and critical race studies at Columbia University, explains, Baldwin left his country because of racism and Harlem because of homophobia, two aspects of his identity that made him a frequent target of beatings by local youth and the police. When asked about his departure, Baldwin explained in the Paris Review interview from 1984, my luck was running out. I was going to jail. I was going to kill somebody or be killed. In Paris, Baldwin began to interact with other writers. He reconnected with Richard Wright, and for the first time, he met Maya Angelou, with whom he maintained a close friendship until the end of his life. So we're talking about James Baldwin being a writer and what he has done for the culture, and bringing it to the Netflix documentary, I Am Not Your Negro. So what were your first thoughts? I know you said that you've watched the documentary a couple times. What's been your thought process about what you've seen and what you've learned from it?
Yeah. James Baldwin is so important to me just because there's so much of me in him. And I feel like I couldn't be without him.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I think that he helped to create a world, even though it's still challenging to be Black and gay for some reason. He made space for me to exist in a safer world. So that was beautiful. His work has been beautiful. I went to go see this movie maybe within the first couple weeks of it being in St. Louis. I think it opened in small theaters in like New York and California, and then made it over here. So I had been hearing a little bit about it, but I went to go see it, and I saw it like twice in a row because I was so into it.
Mm-hmm.
I was so into these stories. I had never heard of Medgar Evers before,
Mm-hmm.
ever. And this documentary it covers some of his childhood. It's not like a cradle to the grave
Right.
situation. It's more of a moment in time, and it relates him to Medgar Evers, who was the part of the NAACP, was also assassinated,
Mm-hmm.
along with Malcolm X and Martin Luther King Jr. And so to relate James Baldwin and his experience to these three men who are all very different in their approach to activism and their approach to how to better the lives of Black folk, to have his relationship to each man and his understanding of each man be highlighted. It's so interesting because it feels so interior. The whole documentary feels like you're in his brain, because you're in his
Mm-hmm.
words, you're in his perspective, and he feels so familiar. to me.
And the narration too, I thought was done really well. I don't
Beautiful.
actually, do you know the voice of the narrator?
It's Samuel L. Jackson.
Of course it is.
Yes,
Of
yes, he
course
does a
it's
great
Samuel L.
job.
Jackson.
He
Yeah.
did a great job with it. Of course, if I have to nitpick, I would
Mhm.
prefer for the person who narrated to be a queer person, but it is what
Right.
it is. Just because I want to hear a
Right.
little swing, a little,
Yeah.
little lisp,
Yeah.
in the thing, just to make it more authentic. But anyway, sorry, I'm rambling on and on, just because
No,
I do
no.
love this movie, and it
Yeah.
was a big part of my life experience, because when
Mhm.
it came out, we were dealing with a new president at the time. I think there was a lot
Mhm.
of conversation that had been bubbling for a few years, especially in St. Louis, being where Ferguson is. A lot of
Yeah.
race conversations happen, and people were discovering, including myself, discovering or rediscovering James Baldwin's works and other people like him. So it was really important for me to see this. I went to go see it at a movie theater called the Tivoli. It's a historic theater that's here in St. Louis. Right now, it got bought out by a church because
Mm.
COVID. But they
Oh,
played
okay.
interesting small films, and it was kind of like a small theater where I'd go with my other friends who I feel are smart and artsy, and we'd sit and we'd think, and we'd watch a movie, and we'd go to the lobby and get a craft beer and then think and talk. And it was just like, this is
Mhm.
the perfect movie for this and the perfect place for
Yeah.
this. So it all wrapped together is just a life experience. I guess
Yeah.
that's, I could have just said, this is a life experience and I love it. I like reliving it by rewatching it. But the shit was fire. Okay.
It was really good. I mean, and I guess it's weird that I know we do the podcast together and I'm watching it and not even connecting the dots that, oh, this is Jonathan,
Dude.
of this being a Black queer male,
Yeah.
like, I
And
don't know how I didn't connect the dots at the time, but I just thought it was um, a really good documentary because of his perspective and how he was able to call out the issues as they were, and it wasn't
yeah.
like he was totally aligned with, everything that MLK did or Medgar Evers did or Malcolm X. Like he had some counterpoints to all of them. And but he was so strong, I thought, or my takeaway, that he was so strong into the belief of recognizing where you were, like basically just saying what's your role in this country and what's your future in it. And so he said, in America, I was only free in battle. Now I'm never free to rest. And he who finds no way to rest cannot survive the long battle.
Oof.
Right.
Oof.
And that is very telling, especially for the times. It's like you have these historic figures who are literally doing the work all
Yeah.
day, every day, and they're not really given time to rest because there was so much work to do. There's another quote that I really liked. And this, I guess, helps to sum it up too. It's not a racial problem. It's a problem of whether or not you're willing to look at your life and be responsible for it and be willing to change it.
Mm.
And so I like that he, realizes there are a lot of problems here, right? And a lot of this is because of the depictions of Black people, especially in film. There are a lot of references to different films at the time. And I know we had briefly talked about Mamie and Uncle Tom and, people like that, and how they're depicted in the films, when we talked about horror films back in October last year. And so this, I felt went to it a little bit deeper, maybe not deeper, but on another level from the from also someone who looks like us in that time, saying this is not okay.
Yeah.
Because of how people were depicted. And so he also mentioned, if you never see yourself in a certain space, or you're only seeing yourself depicted in these sorts of ways, that's the only way that you're going, that might be the only thing that you believe that you can be or can do.
Yeah.
Versus the success and the beauty of being able to be so multifaceted, and have different aspirations in life, but society has created this
Yeah.
depiction and this thought of who we are.
Or society has created so many options, and they're dangling all these options and saying, you can do that one. Like, what the fuck? And there's something about James and other thinkers that I just respect so much that we're like, no, I'm gonna take that dangling one, thank you. Like, I'm gonna go ahead and do what I'm gonna do. There's just this light inside of creatives, especially creatives that are creating during turbulent times. There's something about that their strength and their bravery and maybe their shield that they're showing us. Like, maybe we don't know, you know. He could be presenting something that's super mimicking interior, but it is still a guard, and I still think that's incredible. Like, how did you manage to do that? How did you manage to just let us in enough that you could still survive? Incredible
Right.
stuff. I want to say I'm obsessed, but I'm not. But I am inspired greatly whenever I hear words that were written during those times, and unfortunately, I can draw so many parallels to it. Like, I shouldn't be able to, um, but I do, and I can, and it's nice to have. And the documentary, just in the very beginning of it, we learn a little bit more about James's life, probably just for context for the audience.
Yeah.
And one of the things that really stood out to me in the beginning was that he was doing a lot of talking. Sorry, I need to rewind a little bit. The basis for this documentary is about a few pages. I want to say it's like 50 or something, maybe less than 50 pages of a manuscript for something that he was going to be writing about Medgar and Malcolm and Martin, and he unfortunately didn't finish it. So this project is kind of piecing things together. But the beginning, I tell you a little bit about his upbringing, and he talked about how he was taken in by a school teacher, and the school teacher, because he didn't really have any other guidance, was like, "You like art. I'm going to show you art that you otherwise wouldn't have access to." So he was taken to the theater, and he was shown movies, and he was shown plays and operas and stuff like that, you know, things that he really obviously took to and needed. And it was so interesting that that was shared, because I think some people have those experiences where someone is doing a culture share and they're not from your family or they're not from your world, and some people can't process that this isn't like a white savior. This is just someone who can see people for people. And a lot of that thought was something that he carried throughout the manuscript that he wrote about, I don't hate white people. I
Right.
hate whiteness. I hate the world that whiteness can build. And it's fair to have that criticism. And I think that, like, what's interesting about James is that he had that nuance available to him in sharing. And the audience, I mean, I'll say audience is like America, right?
Right.
Even now, things are so black and white, as if there is no nuance. And
Right.
I'll steal something I heard from a director who I admire, Rebecca Ferguson, who directed Passing, another great movie that I think everyone should
Yeah.
watch.
That's
But
on Netflix. At least I saw it on
yeah,
Netflix. I'm sure it's probably on other platforms as well.
no, Netflix bought it, and it's a Netflix movie now. But
Of
in a
course.
talk that she had, she said something about, she was asked about why she chose to film it the way that she did. And she was like, you know, I know it's in black and white, but it's in black and white because black and white is just 1,000 shades of gray. And I was like, oh my God, that's what James saw. There are
Yeah.
people who see black and white, and then there are people who see all the shades of gray. And James sees it. He sees 1,000 colors, you know. And I just wish that people took that from him, from his words, more often, instead of
Yeah.
having it be right, wrong, and good, evil, all that stuff. It's important to think.
Yeah, and that definitely was a lot of what he did, was like pushing that envelope in a sense, to the point where like the FBI was investigating him
Mm-hmm.
because of his truthful writing, and they were like calling him this dangerous individual, and it's not dangerous. Maybe you see it as dangerous because in the reality that you live in, you're superior, quote unquote, and you don't want to lose that superiority. But that's not how life should work. You know, you shouldn't be on this sort of like pedestal of, being the superior being. And so he was working to dismantle that.
Yeah.
And he knew that for decades and generations to come, that this would be an ongoing battle. And I liked that because I know you mentioned Ferguson, but they had related, back in the day, the different racial tensions and the uprisings and things like that to a lot of what's happened today as well. I guess up to 2017, I think that's when the documentary came out. So, time's up till then. And it's like, it's totally true. You're still kind of fighting that battle, but it's in a different era. But it's still around, just like he said.
Yeah. I think it's, I think through some of his works, and I haven't read them all. I simply don't have the attention span right now, but I want to so badly. But I think through his works, there's a frustration. Even in him going to Europe, there's this frustration with people not getting the nuance and not wanting to think more and think about why and think about whiteness. It's not white people, it's whiteness, and he said that multiple times in the documentary. And it was super interesting to hear because I think the tone starts as, no, guys, look, it's this. And then after so many times of being rejected, it's like, okay, I mean, it's this, but I'm talking to a brick wall. I'm going to go ahead and go,
You
there's
just
like
keep repeating yourself and repeating yourself. And
And I wish that it hadn't worn him out so much. I wish that we were able to have him thrive and share and think and actually have a conversation. It's like talking to a baby. It's like, oh my God.
But they're, the people that they showed some of the interviews that he conducted, and even a lot of like his the times where he would go and speak. I think it was Cambridge University he had gone to speak, and it was like he got that standing ovation at the end. Like those people got it, but like the interviews that were conducted, at least for what they showed in the documentary, those people didn't get it. And I want to go back really quick to how he said that he doesn't hate white people, he hates whiteness. And we understand that. At least I believe we both understand that. But I just want to ask you, how would you describe the differences in what is white people versus whiteness, just for the listeners?
I think, well, damn, I wish I had thought more about my words, but I'll just spill. I think that whiteness is a disease. It is this understanding of privilege that just simply isn't real, based on nothing. I think that's why passing is, I hate to bring up another film to give homework to, but I think that the concept of passing is a spit in the face of what whiteness is supposed to be. It's like your little race thing, your little superiority thing is fake, and I can do it if I wear a low hat and walk outside. You don't know what this is. You're using it as if it's a weapon, and it's not. It's fake. Whiteness is, it's a sickness. It's something that has been built on for a millennia, and people believe it to the point that it became true, but it's bullshit. And because of whiteness, we have so much pain and suffering in the world. And it's not, I don't think it's white people. Now, I do use white people interchangeably with whiteness, just for the sake of moving my lips a different way, probably. Like I'll say, oh, white people are doing this or that, and I know it's not individual. I'm married to a white man, and we talk about whiteness all the time, because it is something that's real and ingrained in everything, that like we do this and they do this. What? Why?
And I think the difference too with that is like recognizing, if you say white people, at least for us, like I know some people will mean all white people, but for us in our, in the context of now we know in our podcast, if we say white people, we're not talking about all white people. We're talking about whiteness, to differentiate. And so, if anyone takes offense to what's being said in that way, like, we apologize, sort of.
I don't.
But that's not, okay.
I don't. Honestly,
that's fair.
I think just at this point in 2022, I'm bored with the soothing back rub that comes with us talking about an experience that we've had to deal with for 30 years. I'm like, if I had to start knowing that I was othered at, I don't know how old I was, 5 or so, you can deal with hearing white people. You'll be fucking fine. I know you'll be fine because you know you'll be fine. We'll be cool.
That's fair. You're right. We should not apologize. I should not apologize, and I should not speak for the both of us.
but also with 30 years of training to apologize, it's not far-fetched to feel the need to apologize next. It's all socialization. It's what we've been trained to do. It's
I'm
not
gonna dismantle my apologizing.
It's just unlearning stuff, and you don't have to unlearn it. I choose to because I'm sick of it. I'm sick of apologizing. We talk about this a little bit with critical race theory and whatnot, but like, I had to do so much extracurricular race learning. You'll be fine. Yeah, it's white people because I don't feel like saying whiteness and then explaining concept versus person and yada yada. It's white people today. Next, it's just exhausting, and I feel that exhaust with James's words over the years, and I feel
he's exacerbated exasperated. He's exasperated.
Worn out. Because how many times are you going to play fetch with this? Like, I'm going to go ahead and sit. Like, you find out. I had to find out myself. You can do it now. I've talked enough.
And I like that. I believe it was the Cambridge University talk that they highlighted a bit. I believe that's when he also called out, was it James Kennedy, the president at the time, who said, maybe in 40 years you can get a Black president. Because Black people just made it so far in the country, at that time, and so it's the 60s and maybe 60s or 70s, and so then they fast forward to Obama's inauguration, back in 2009, and so it's like, dang.
That part was so interesting to me. Especially,
and he's like, you just got here. Like, James Baldwin is talking about, is it James? I think it was James Kennedy.
I think it was Bobby Kennedy at the time.
Bobby Kennedy. Okay.
Yeah, he was gonna be running for president or something like that.
He did some sort of talk. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, and said, you might be able to be president in 40 years. So James Baldwin is like, in our language, he's like, bruh, you just got here about 5 minutes ago.
And you're already home.
We've been here for hundreds of years. We've built this country. And you are telling me that maybe in 40 years you can be president. Maybe in 40 years, Black people can, aspire to be president.
And it's
sad because both of them were right in a sense, in their own sense, they were both right. But it's still annoying that it came to that,
Right. It's so, it's interesting that you can come in, say your speech to get your Black vote, and run and hide in your white area and never have to think about it again because you had to do this for the Black vote because suddenly Black people have buying power and voting power. And so now you have to do this. Okay.
Let's talk about that too, because they talked about the buying power, right? Like, and how it was, what did they title that section? Like, selling to the Negro. And that it's so true because, it's like selling this idea of like, you too can like have this nice house in a suburb, or you too can have these toys or whatever, for your kids. And so selling to them in this, what's the word? We use the word a lot now. What is that word where you pandering?
Oh my God, pandering. But that's not the word that...
That's not it. Yeah, that's not it. What is it? I forget. Anyway.
It's like a weird algorithmic situation where people are like, well, Black people like this. Let's make sure that this is included on the things we sell to Black people.
And I mean, arguably, like Target, Home Goods, TJ Maxx, like a lot of the brands are doing that. And it's interesting because I see it and I'm like, I can appreciate it that it's there, but I don't want it to be like James Baldwin called out. It's like, you're doing this because you see dollar signs, or are you doing it because you see like more representation matters. And James Baldwin is obviously on the side of representation matters, because he'd even mentioned, if you don't see yourself in the world, talking about little Black girls and Black boys growing up and not realizing that they are not depicted in the mannequins and in the shows and all of that until they're around 5 or 6, and that's when you start to have more of a realization of who you are and what you look like. And then you see that, like, oh, I actually don't look like this. So is a representation because it matters, or is a representation because it equals dollar signs? Unfortunately, it could maybe be both, but you would hope that it's just because it's representation. But we know that that's not the real case.
The cynic in me knows it's about dollar signs.
Yeah.
Actually, Selling to the Negro is available on YouTube. I've watched it. It's like a 30-minute little training video thing. And yeah, it's all about dollar signs. And you see it nowadays, like whenever Target does its Black History Month thing, it's 100% pandering because they can get that dollar sign, and Black people have buying power. Right. And yada yada yada. And I say this with Black things. I say this with Pride Month things. The reason why I have to hold some compassion for it being, or not compassion, I have to hold space for the opportunity that is genuine in there, is because I literally have been that person, that one employee that has a nothing job, that is begging and screaming at the higher ups to include Black something or include gay something. Like at my old job, my old job, I was the reason why our company started having booths at Pride Fest, just because I went and I begged for it because I wanted it. So in my head, when I see that stuff and I see criticisms of that stuff, it's like, I know there's just 1 or 5 or 12 people that are in the company that are literally like dying for that display to happen.
Yeah.
And if it means something to them, then it's success. And I know that it is all for a corporate thing, but like, you have to remember there are people in there. There are little James Baldwins in there that are like, here's how I can affect change, and I'm going to affect change. So I'm screaming to my fellow left people who are like down with corporations and this is pandering. It's like, yes, it is 100% pandering. It is also 100% due to the efforts of the employees within the company who are trying their best to do something to make the world a little bit better. Just like, I want to shout them out because I know that that's what they're doing, and they can get exhausted if we don't congratulate them for the efforts that they've made so far. They're going to move to Paris if we don't. We need them here.
Right. And deal with not have to deal with everything here. But it's not without their own issues,
Everyone's
being
done
in
it.
Paris
Nina
too,
Simone. Right? Well, you know what? Everyone has done it.
Yeah. So pandering to Black people, for buying for their dollars, basically. But then, the flip side of that is we've talked about supporting Black businesses and Black organizations. And so that's always Black, it's not only Black because it's Black History Month or, MLK Day or anything like that. And so I wonder what James would say about that, like what he would think about supporting Black businesses specifically.
I'm sure
in those kinds of ways. Yeah.
Yeah, I just don't know where to find that, info.
Yeah.
Also, I think there were less opportunities back then.
Yeah. Not as many I think it actually might be a mixed bag, because before the end of segregation, there were a lot of different Black businesses. If you're in a segregated community, that's what was there. It was the Black businesses, the convenience store and the hospitals or the, schools and stuff like that. And so, maybe not as much opportunity outside of the areas. So, but now, is there maybe even less opportunity because there's such, I want to say saturated market only because I don't know what other word to use. But ultimately, businesses can be successful because of who the owner is, or who they are, and standing out amongst the crowd, even if it's saturated. So in today's world, we do have social media, and we do have a broader reach of people across state lines, countries, if you will, depending on what it is that you're selling or what you're offering. So in a sense, that could be maybe more access and more opportunity to thrive versus back in the day. But I don't know. That I guess that's hard to tell, or maybe it's just kind of outside of our scope
Yeah.
of knowledge to really know, was it better back then or is it better now, with opportunity.
I don't know. That's one of those things where I know I could find that information out, but
Mhm.
I have this age of the internet lobotomy in me where I'm like, well, it'll come to me. Like I'll see it
Yeah.
sometime. I don't want to do the research part. That's so sucky, but true. I'm the reason why James wanted to leave America because he's like, I'm screaming this in your face and you don't want to hear it. And it's like, no, come sleep. I'm tired.
Oh, yes, you are exactly the reason why you left.
Man, um, I do want to say though that first of all, everyone should at least put it on. Put the documentary on. It's a beautifully
Mhm.
done
Yeah.
documentary. But I also want to encourage people to listen to or read something that James has done, so that you can kind of understand how he's the way he spoke, the way that he thought, all those things, because he wasn't necessarily the most popular person in the Black community either.
Right. Right.
And I think it's important to know that this person was doing all this work and feeling ostracized at the same time. And I know that happens a lot, but Malcolm and Martin were welcomed with more open arms. He had to deal with James had to deal with homophobia, and
Yeah,
that adds a layer. You know, he had to deal
for
with
sure.
just a lot of things that I'm glad that we don't have to deal with now. But I think he really got his flowers after he's gone. You know,
Right.
I really
Which
think it was
sucks.
one of those like you were ahead of your time thing. So I
Mhm.
encourage people to look and listen and also just understand where he was socially,
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
they were not trying to fuck with him.
No. Well, and here's the thing too. I think this kind of sums up a bit of more, for listeners to understand why James wasn't really like totally accepted, is because like the Black Panthers, for example, he didn't align with that because he didn't believe all white people were devils.
Yeah.
In the Christian church, he's like, he didn't think that they like really heard what the Bible was saying or live by the commandments of love one another and love yourself. And then he also wasn't affiliated with the NAACP, because it mentioned in the documentary that they were like fatally entangled with Black class distinctions,
Mm-hmm.
and which further perpetuates a divide.
Mm-hmm.
So he's not part of these. I would say, I think that's pretty major, like the three major: Christianity, the NAACP, and Black Panthers of the time.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's a pretty those are big groups to be a part of. And usually maybe you're affiliating with one of them. So if you're not, but you're still doing this work, it's like, well, where do you fall in line? But what I love too about it is that you don't have to fall into one category or fall into one group to be able to do the work or to be able to make an impact and make change,
Yeah.
which I totally appreciate. And for that, I guess I see in myself too, is because I'm not just like this one sided kind of person. Like it's calling out the flaws so you can have, the two things can be true. I think I say that a lot, but two things can be true. And I think the best way to show love is to hold people accountable and yourself to do better. And I think that that's pretty much who James was.
Yeah.
Quote, that maybe can kind of like wrap us up, is that not everything that is faced can be changed, but nothing can be changed until it is faced.
Mm. I
That's
love
what I
it.
got.
I'm like I sit with the words often because you like you laying that out, and this whole idea that James was kind of out here. And I know he wasn't out here alone. I know he wasn't. We had Lorraine Hansberry and we had Nina Simone and people who just didn't, who were free thinkers. It's, you know, were people who weren't going to go with the establishment because that's not what they believed in. And they just did it anyway. And they find each other. And I'm going to throw in a we find each other in the world and we do what we can. But it gets so exhausting for these people sometimes because you kind of have to work with the powers that be to get your messaging out there. So he's half in and half out. And it's like, where do I belong? And also on top of that, I'm gay. Like, where do I belong? You know, I just see this brave person and I see these brave people and these artists and that are creating out of these, it's like magic. It's like magic watching them articulate. So the Cambridge University talk was actually a debate about race and a debate about Black people being able to exist in spaces. So that's also available on YouTube and I recommend it. It's about an hour. And it's all these white men and James. And he's just trying to say that Black people are people. And the reason I bring that up is because the other day I saw an advertisement for a new show on NBC. It's called Grand Crew. And it stars Nicole Byer, who's a comedian I love. But the show's advertisement literally said, Black people, we have layers, y'all. And I was like, it is 2022. And this show is not talking to Black people. I know you're not, like, we know that we have layers, but we're still trying to convince people that we are people. And that is insane to me.
This last one, actually, with how, like, with testing things, basically, and like when you go against the grain, he said, I know how you watch as you grow older, the corpses of your brothers and sisters pile up around you, not as a result of anything that they have done. They were too young to have done anything. But one does not realize is that when you try to stand up and look the world in the face as if you had a right to be here, you have attacked the entire power structure of the Western world. So saying that you existing and being yourself and standing up for yourself and standing up for your own rights, to say, I do have a right to be here, that is going against the grain, you know, it's going against what society had built.
We're still dealing with it. Man, I think that's a wonderful quote to leave out on because I think that draws at least a strong permanent markered outline of James Baldwin's works in general.
I agree.
And then you can get deeper from there. And I'd love to get deeper from there. This is going to be added to my little 2022 goal list. I want to do that. I have to honor my ancestors, and he's a direct ancestor. Like he is where I come from.
If anyone has paved the way for you, it has been James Baldwin.
Okay. Yeah. Holy shit. Man. Well, I'm glad that this topic got brought up. Thank you for bringing this documentary back because, like I said, it was a super important life experience just seeing this documentary, where I was when I was, and to do it again and just kind of relive and experience that again was great. It's a great documentary, guys. Go see it if you haven't, and get into James Baldwin.
Yes, check it out on Netflix. Again, it's called I Am Not Your Negro. I'm sure you can find it other places as well, but we watched it on Netflix, and we'll look forward to hearing any sort of feedback from what you gathered from the documentary, whether you see yourself in it or see someone that you love in it. I think that it's really impactful and really can make a difference.
You know what? I would also ask from the listening audience. I want to know more about maybe some of James's contemporaries, some fellow thinkers. You know, I know the Lorraine Hansberry, I know the Nina Simone and all that, but I want to know who you feel connected to in your time. It's so nice to look back and see a mirror sometimes. So I want to hear about them. I think we are because of them. So let's go.
Absolutely.
Let's get into it.
Oh, I love that. Well, until next month.
Yeah.
Until next one. We'll see you later, Jonathan.
See you later.